There's this moment in the New Testament where Yeshua is walking with his disciples on the Sabbath. They get hungry, so they're plucking heads of grain and they eat it. The Pharisees see this and say, "Why are you doing what is unlawful to do on the Sabbath?" Because the Pharisees had specific laws about all these little details about how you could do things and how you couldn't do things. Things like picking up your mat and carrying it, which is not a Torah command in the Old Testament, but the Pharisees had an oral tradition in that you couldn't pick up your mat and carry it. These are things called fence laws. Yeshua spoke out against fence laws all the time. He wasn't speaking against his Father's commands, because if he did speak against his Father's commands, according to Deuteronomy 13, he would be a false prophet or a false Messiah. But in all this debate about Sabbath, keep the Sabbath or not keep the Sabbath, and all this stuff that kind of happens in modern Christian culture because we are so far removed from what was going on in this conversation, that we miss what he's really pointing at. And it is something much, much more profound than most Christians realize. He points to David and how David and his mighty men entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence. The bread of the presence was only to be eaten by the priests. So how could David eat of it? Well, what most Christians don't know is that David was a priest. He was a royal priest, and so were his sons. David and his sons were priests. They weren't Levitical priests, though. They were kingly priests. That's why David was able to move the tabernacle and do certain priestly tasks, because he was a kingly anointed priest. What is Yeshua saying in this moment to the Pharisees? He's not saying do away with the Sabbath day. He's saying, I am a kingly priest. I am son of David. He's telling them that he is Messiah.